The stars were quiet that night, but only because no one had yet seen the storm coming. Deep in the outer reaches of the Draven Empire, the patrol fleet scanned the dark space for signs of human activity. No signals, no distress calls, just the black silence of empty systems. Commander Vark of the Draven fleet smiled. Humans were supposed to be extinct. Legends said their fleets had been destroyed centuries ago. They were a forgotten species, a whisper in the galaxy. Then a single blip appeared on the long-range sensors. A ship, small but powerful, moving faster than any human relic should. Vark's curiosity turned to alarm. He called his bridge officers. "Identify it," he said, his voice calm but firm. The scanners struggled. The ship should not exist. Its energy signature was unlike anything in Draven records. The ship emerged from the darkness like a shadow with teeth. It fired a pulse that disabled the lead cruiser before anyone could react. The Dravens were shocked. Their ships were built to withstand plasma storms and ion blasts, yet this single human vessel tore through their formation like it was nothing. Explosions lit up the blackness, burning away centuries of arrogance. On board the human ship, Captain Rhea stood at the helm. Her eyes were steady, her fingers brushing the controls with practiced ease. "Keep moving," she said. Her crew obeyed instantly. Each member knew the plan, even if they didn't know why it worked so well. The Dravens had underestimated humans. Always underestimated them. And that mistake was about to cost the Empire dearly. Vark's fleet tried to regroup. But the humans anticipated every maneuver. Shields flickered, weapons overheated, and one by one, Draven cruisers fell silent. Vark clenched his fists. Our only one ship, he reminded himself. But deep down he knew the truth. One human fleet should never have been able to do this. Something ancient, something deadly, had returned. As the battle ended, the humans didn't celebrate. They vanished into the shadows of space, leaving a trail of wreckage behind. The Dravens sent messages to the Central Command, but it felt too late. By the time the Emperor would hear the news, the humans might already strike again. Fear, long buried in Draven hearts, began to rise. Far away, in the hidden colonies on Earth, other fleets were preparing. 10 more ships, each armed and ready, waited in silence. They did not announce their presence. They did not signal their intentions. They were trained for one purpose: to remind the galaxy that humans were not gone, not weak, and certainly not to be ignored. Back in the Outer Rim, Commander Vark stared at the stars where the human ship had disappeared. He remembered the stories, the warnings that were laughed at, and the treaties that were broken by arrogance. Humans had been gone from the galaxy for centuries, yet here was proof that legends were real and dangerous. Inside the wrecked Draven ships, survivors whispered of strange tactics, of weapons that defied logic, of shields that seemed to predict attacks. Fear spread faster than the cold void of space. The galaxy had built an empire on technology and numbers, but humans had something else, something that no scanner could measure. Captain Rhea didn't look back. Her orders were clear, her mission just beginning. Earth had sent them to shake an empire, to test how far humans could push without revealing their full strength. The first strike had succeeded beyond expectations, but it was only the beginning. Somewhere hidden in the stars, her sister fleets waited, ready to appear when the galaxy least expected. Vark realized that the humans were not merely returning, they were rewriting the rules of war. And if one fleet could destroy so much, what would 10 fleets do? The thought froze him. The stars around him no longer seemed like empty space. They were filled with shadows. Threats he could not name, and enemies he could not hope to fight. With arrogance alone, the galaxy had laughed at humanity once. That mistake would not be repeated, not anymore, and far away 10 human fleets, silent and patient, awaited the signal. When it came, the galaxy would tremble. The Draven capital world was a city of endless towers, glowing skies, and fleets stretching across orbit. It was the heart of an empire that ruled thousands of stars. For centuries, the Emperor had sat in confidence, believing no enemy could rise strong enough to threaten him. But now, whispers spread through the marble halls of power. Whispers of a human fleet. At first, the ministers laughed. How could a forgotten species, erased long ago, stand against the Empire? The reports had to be false. A single ship, they said, could not destroy half a fleet. But then more survivors arrived. Their faces pale, their voices shaking. They spoke of impossible weapons, of human tactics that felt like they came from nightmares. The Emperor sat upon his throne of black stone, silent as he listened. His golden eyes narrowed. One fleet, he said at last. And already my admirals tremble. His voice was calm, but the hall was heavy with unease. The Empire had crushed rebellions, burned planets, and enslaved species. They had fought every kind of enemy. Yet this felt different. Far from the capital, in the cold dark of a hidden sector, the humans prepared. Captain Rhea stood aboard her ship, the Resolute, while her crew carried out silent drills. Around her, 9 more ships waited. They had come from the shadows of Earth, built in secret, hidden from the galaxy's eyes. Each ship carried weapons no one else understood, forged from centuries of forgotten science. Rhea's orders were simple. Strike fast, disappear, let fear grow. She knew the Dravens would come with greater numbers next time, but that was the plan. The humans wanted them to come. They wanted the Empire to think it was facing one fleet, only one, inside the War Council. Of the Dravens, Admiral Carvos argued, if humans have returned, they will spread like fire. One spark will burn through the Empire. It must crush them before the legend grows. His words clashed with those of other generals who dismissed the threat. Pride made them blind, just as it had made Vark blind on the frontier, but in the dark void pride was useless. The humans struck again. This time, they did not attack a fleet. They attacked supply lines. Convoys burned in silence. Mining stations went dark. Entire systems reported sudden raids where no ship should have been able to appear. Then, just as quickly, the humans vanished without a trace. Admiral Carvos clenched his teeth as he watched the reports. It was not war the humans were fighting. It was something else. They were planting fear like seeds, letting it grow across the Empire's borders. Every world, every station, began to feel unsafe. And the worst part, the humans never showed their full strength. No one knew how many ships they truly had. One night, deep in the stars, Rhea stood at the observation window of the Resolute. Below her, a captured Draven frigate floated, disabled and silent. She gave the order, and her crew boarded it. Not to destroy, not to kill, but to send a message. A single survivor would always be left alive, trembling, carrying tales of human power back to the Empire. Why not finish them? Asked her second officer, a young man, hardened by years of exile. Rhea's eyes stayed fixed on the stars, 'cause fear spreads faster than death. Let them believe we are everywhere. And it worked. Across the Empire, entire garrisons trembled at shadows. Merchants whispered of human ghosts. Soldiers swore they heard human signals in the dark. The legend grew stronger than the truth, but on the Draven capital, the Emperor's patience thinned. He summoned his highest generals. You will not underestimate this species again, he said, his voice sharp as steel. Send a grand fleet, burn their ships, erase them a second time. The Dravens believed they would face one fleet. They were wrong, for in the hidden colonies near Earth, more engines lit up, more ships woke from silence. Not one fleet, not 2, but 10 full battle groups were ready. Silent, patient, waiting for the Empire to walk blindly into the trap. The galaxy thought it had erased humanity. But humans had learned, they had hidden. They had built in silence. And now, they were ready to remind the stars why no empire should ever forget them. And so the war began. Not with thunder, not with fire, but with whispers, shadows, and the slow heartbeat of fear. The grand fleet of the Draven Empire stretched across the stars like a wall of steel and fire. Hundreds of cruisers, carriers, and destroyers glimmered in formation, their hulls polished black, their banners glowing red. No enemy in the galaxy had ever stood against such power. To the Dravens, this was the ultimate answer to the human threat. Admiral Carvos stood at the command deck, his scales shining under the cold lights. "One human fleet dares to strike at us," he growled. "We will crush them here. We will. Show the galaxy that legends are nothing." His officers nodded, though none of them had forgotten the reports. They had seen how one human fleet had destroyed entire formations. Still, pride kept their voices silent, but far away. Hidden in the dark systems of Earth's colonies, 10 human fleets were already moving, silent, cold, waiting for the signal. Captain Rhea aboard the Resolute received the coded message. Crew sat in silence, knowing what it meant. The first stage was over. Now the real war would begin. In the empty stretch of a dead system, the Draven Grand Fleet waited. Their long-range sensors caught movement one single human ship breaking through the darkness. Admiral Carvos laughed. They come to die. But his laughter faded when more shapes emerged, not one ship, not one fleet. One after another, human ships lit up against the stars. 2 fleets, then 3, then 5. The Dravens froze as the sky filled with shadows of steel. 10 full fleets, moving in perfect silence, sliding into position like hunters surrounding prey. Admiral Carvos felt a chill in his blood. This was no legend. This was no ghost story. This was war, real and alive. The humans struck first.
Dare.
Weapons cut through shields as if they were nothing. Draven destroyers shattered under the first volley. The humans moved in tight formations, every strike calculated, every movement perfect. It was like fighting shadows that already knew where you would move next. Panic spread through the Draven fleet. Communications screamed with desperate voices. "They are everywhere. Shields are failing. We cannot hold." The Empire's pride turned to chaos. Admiral Carvos shouted orders, but his voice was lost in the storm. Human torpedoes cut through carrier bays. Railguns ripped open cruisers. Whole lines of Draven ships fell in minutes. On the Resolute, Captain Rhea stood calm, her voice steady. As she guided her crew, "Keep pressure. Break their lines. Do not let them regroup." Her eyes never wavered. This was not about victory. This was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. Humans were back, and they would not bow to any empire. For hours, the battle raged. The stars burned with wreckage. Draven ships tried to retreat, but the humans gave no mercy. Route was cut off. Every attempt to regroup ended in fire. It was not war. It was a hunt. And the hunters were human. Admiral Carvos's flagship shook as explosions rocked through its hull. His officers stared at him in terror. Mighty grand fleet of the Empire destroyed, not in days or weeks, but in hours. His pride shattered. His voice cracked when he gave the order. Retreat. All ships retreat. But by then, it was too late. Only fragments of the fleet escaped. Broken, silent, humiliated. They carried the story back to the capital. 10 human fleets had risen from the ashes of Earth. They had crushed the mightiest armada the Empire had ever built. On the human side, the fleets regrouped in silence. Rhea watched the wreckage of the Draven ships scatter across the void. She did not smile. She did not cheer. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. Her crew nodded in silence. They all knew. The Empire would not stop. The galaxy would not stay silent. And humanity's fight had only begun. Back on the Draven capital, fear spread like wildfire. For the first time in living memory, the Empire had been defeated. Ministers argued in panic. Generals shouted at one another. The Emperor sat in silence, his golden eyes burning with rage. He had thought humans were ghosts. Now he knew the truth. They were something worse. Something unstoppable. Galaxy listened. Their species, long enslaved, long silenced, heard the stories. Some whispered of rebellion. Some prayed. But all of them knew one thing. The humans had returned. And in the shadows of the stars, 10 fleets waited for the next order. The galaxy had seen their strength, but not their fury. That would come later. The galaxy had gone silent. The news of the Draven Grand Fleet's destruction spread faster than light itself. Merchant captains whispered it in secret channels. Smugglers carried the tale to outlaw stations, and on the enslaved worlds of the Empire, people began to hope for the first time in centuries, the humans had returned. On the Draven capital, the Emperor raged. His throne room shook with his fury. Generals knelt in silence, their eyes lowered, afraid to speak. He had sent the greatest fleet in the Empire's history, and it had been destroyed in ours. The humiliation burned hotter than fire. The humans have not defeated us, the Emperor hissed, his voice cold as steel. They have only awakened the wrath of the Empire. We will not bow to shadows. We will crush them, no matter the cost. But deep inside, the Empire trembled. Supply lines collapsed. Outlying governors sent frantic messages begging for reinforcements. Convoys vanished. Soldiers deserted their posts, whispering of human ghosts that struck from the dark. The legend of humanity grew with every passing day. Far away, in a hidden system close to Earth, the 10 human fleets rested. Captain Rhea walked the halls of the Resolute, listening to the quiet hum of her ship. Her crew was tired, but their eyes burned with fire. They had done the impossible. They had shattered the Empire's pride. Yet Rhea knew it was not enough. The Empire will return, she said to her officers. Stronger, angrier, and when they do, we must be ready. She stared at the stars beyond the viewport. Each one was a prison, a world under the Draven's rule. Millions lived and died in chains. Humanity's war was not just survival, it was a spark that could set the galaxy on fire. Already, rebellions stirred. On the mining world of Karthus, slaves whispered of human fleets. On the desert colonies of Vorth, soldiers laid down their weapons, afraid of the stories they had heard. Even among the Empire's own allies, doubt grew. If the Dravens could be defeated, maybe the Empire was not as eternal as it claimed. Admiral Carvos, the survivor of the Grand Fleet, stood before the Emperor once more. His scales were pale, his voice broken. We cannot fight them as we always have. They move like shadows. They strike where we are weak. If we chase them with brute force, we will only bleed more ships. The Emperor's golden eyes burned with anger, but even he could not deny the truth. He ordered new weapons to be built, new ships to be forged, faster and stronger than before. Factories roared to life. The Empire turned its whole strength toward one purpose: destroy humanity once and for all. But the humans were not idle. In the secret colonies of Earth, engineers worked without rest. Old technologies, hidden for centuries, were brought back. Weapons the galaxy had never seen were loaded onto the fleets. Humanity had learned from every war it ever fought, and it had built weapons for enemies just like the Dravens. Rhea stood before her fleet commanders. The Empire thinks they can crush us with fear, she said. But they are wrong. Fear is their weakness. Hope is our weapon. Every world they enslaved will look to us. Every system they crush will rise if we give them the chance. Voice was steady, but her mind was heavy with the weight of command. She knew the next battles would be harder. The Empire would not send fleets blindly anymore. They would adapt. They would come with everything. Humanity would have to prove it was ready. On the outer rim, the first sparks of rebellion lit up. A slave world rose against its masters, carrying human banners stolen from Whispers. The rebellion was crushed quickly, but the message spread. Humanity is alive. Humanity fights. The galaxy was changing, and the Dravens could feel it. The Emperor looked at the star map in his chamber. Red lights blinked, where rebellions flared, where convoys were lost, where human fleets struck. His empire, once untouchable, now bled from 1,000 cuts. He clenched his claws and whispered, "If humans want war, then they shall have war. But when I am finished, there will be no trace of them left."
How big, buddy, man.
10 human fleets prepared in silence. They did not fear the Empire. They had already done what no one else dared. They had broken it. Now they would not stop. The galaxy had lived under Draven rule for centuries. That age was ending. New age had begun, an age written by humans. The first sparks of rebellion were no longer whispers. They were flames. Across the edges of the Draven Empire, worlds rose in defiance, some with weapons, some with only hope. And everywhere, one name gave them courage: humanity. On the prison world of Grathus, slaves worked the ore mines in silence. But one night, strange signals filled the sky. Lights shimmered where no stars should be. Then came the thunder. Human ships descended, weapons flashing, breaking open the prison towers. Chains fell. For the first time in generations, the slaves looked at the sky and saw freedom. The Draven garrisons fought fiercely, but the humans were faster, sharper, unrelenting. They did not stay long. They freed who they could and vanished back into the void. But their message burned brighter than any weapon. You are not alone. When the Emperor heard the news, his fury shook the council halls. They spread like a disease. He roared. Every system they touch turns against us. Burn them out. Burn their colonies, their worlds, their name. He sent legions of soldiers, sent fleets bristling with firepower. Yet the more he sent, the more cracks appeared in his empire. It was like trying to stop the ocean with his bare hands. Admiral Carvos, once broken, now studied every report. He saw what the Emperor refused to see. They do not fight for conquest. He whispered to his officers. They fight to ignite rebellion. They strike not to win, but to inspire. He feared that the Empire could not kill an idea, no matter how many ships it destroyed. Meanwhile, Captain Rhea guided her fleets with cold precision. She chose her battles carefully. One strike on a convoy, one raid on a prison world, each time. She left survivors. Each time, the legend grew. Her second officer asked her once, why not destroy them all? Why let them live? Rhea's answer was quiet but sharp. Because fear weakens empires, and hope strengthens the galaxy. But the Dravens were not fools. They began to adapt. They built new weapons, faster cruisers, stronger shields. They trained their soldiers to fight the human way: chaotic, unpredictable, ruthless. For the first time in centuries, the Empire truly learned fear. On the capital, the Emperor gathered his warlords. He revealed a plan kept secret even from his council. A weapon forged in the deepest labs of the Empire. A weapon not meant for war, but for extermination. If humans think themselves shadows, he said, we will burn the very darkness they hide in.
Nice.
The galaxy shivered with tension. Whispers of the Draven's secret weapon reached rebel ears. Rumors spread of ships that could scorch entire systems, weapons that tore apart fleets in a single strike. Some began to doubt. Could even humans stand against such terror? Rhea heard the rumors too. She stood at her ship's viewport, staring. At the void, it will come for us with fire, she said to her commanders. But remember this, the Empire fights to hold power. We fight to survive, and survival is stronger than fear. Her fleet struck again, this time against a Draven fortress world. It was one of the Empire's proudest strongholds, with walls of steel and orbital guns that had never been breached. The humans did not fight it head-on. They slipped through defenses like smoke, cut supply lines, and turned the fortress into a trap for its own soldiers. When the dust cleared, the fortress stood empty, its banners torn down by its own people. The Empire called it treason. The galaxy called it hope. Back on the capital, the Emperor's rage deepened into something colder: obsession. He stared at the stars, at the growing cracks in his empire, and whispered, I will tear Earth itself from the sky if I must. For the first time, the humans had struck at the Empire's heart, not with weapons, but with rebellion. And the Emperor would answer not with fear, but with destruction. In the silence of deep space, 10 human fleets waited. It won battles. But Rhea knew the greatest storm was yet to come. The Empire would reveal its weapons soon. And when it did, the war would change forever. The stars burned red above the Draven capital as the Emperor revealed his weapon. It was not a fleet, not an army, but something far darker. From the hidden shipyards of the Empire, a colossal warship emerged. Larger than cities, its hull black as night, its core glowing with unnatural fire. The Dravens called it the Obliterator. Unlike any ship before, it did not fight with guns alone, carried a weapon designed to erase whole fleets in a single strike. A weapon meant not to defeat humans, but to exterminate them. In the throne room, the Emperor's voice was cold as he spoke. To his generals, the humans spread like a disease. Their hope infects my empire. This ship will be the cure. When they see what we unleash, their courage will die. Admiral Carvos listened in silence. His blood chilled as he studied the ship's design. It was powerful beyond measure. Yet in his heart, he wondered, could even this weapon destroy an enemy that fought with spirit, not just steel? Far away, the human fleets received the first whispers of the Empire's new creation. Rhea stood on the bridge of the Resolute as her intelligence officer read the intercepted reports. A ship that can erase entire fleets, he said, his voice heavy. The crew fell silent. For a moment, even their fire seemed dimmed, but Rhea's eyes stayed steady. They want us afraid, she said. But fear is their weapon, not ours. If this ship is real, then we will face it like we face all their fleets together. Her voice gave strength to her crew. The humans had not survived centuries of exile by bowing to fear. They had endured because fear only sharpened their will. Soon the Empire unleashed the Obliterator. Its first target was not a human fleet, but a rebellious colony. The people of Vorth had risen against their masters, waving human banners. The Dravens sent their monster ship. From orbit, the Obliterator fired. In a single strike, the colony's defenses were erased. Cities burned in silence. Millions were gone in minutes. The galaxy watched in horror. The Empire wanted this massacre to be a warning. This is the price of siding with humans. But the warning became something else. Survivors whispered the truth that the Empire had slaughtered innocents, that humanity fought not with such cruelty, but with precision, with purpose. Instead of crushing rebellion, the strike fueled it. Galaxy's hatred for the Empire deepened. When news reached the human fleets, Rhea's hands tightened into fists. She stood before her commanders. They think this weapon will break us, but it has broken the galaxy's fear instead. Every world knows what we fight against. Her fleets moved in silence, preparing for their most dangerous battle. Yet, they could not allow the Obliterator to roam freely. If it destroyed even one human fleet, the balance would turn. The trap was set. Near the gas giant Tharos, Rhea positioned her fleets in hidden formations, waiting for the Empire's monster ship to arrive. The void was tense, every soldier holding their breath, knowing this battle could decide the future. And then it came. The Obliterator slid into the system, escorted by a swarm of Draven cruisers. Its dark hull swallowed the light of nearby stars. Its weapon began to charge, glowing. Like the heart of a dying sun, on the Resolute alarms rang. "They're locking on us," shouted her officer. Rhea's voice cut through the fear. "Hold the line. Wait for the signal." The weapon fired. A storm of light tore through space, striking at the human fleets. For a moment, silence fell. Then came the explosion, ships burning, shields collapsing. The Dravens cheered. At last they thought humanity could bleed. But Rhea had planned for this. Half the fleets had been decoys, positioned to draw the strike. The real strength of humanity moved from the shadows, surrounding the Obliterator from all sides. "Now," Rhea ordered. Human weapons unleashed hell. Railguns slammed into the giant's hull. Torpedoes pierced its armor. Fighters swarmed like hornets, striking at its weak points. For the first time, the Empire's monster ship shuddered under true fire. But it did not fall. The beast fought back, tearing through human ships with brutal power. The void became a graveyard of fire. Humanity bled, but they did not break. Fought harder, tighter. Each crew knowing their survival meant the survival of all. As the battle raged, Rhea stood unshaken. "We've faced extinction before," she whispered. "We will not face it again." And so, against the Empire's greatest weapon, humanity's will stood firm. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see who would fall first, the Empire's monster, or the humans who refused to die. The void shook with fire. Human fleets and Draven warships clashed in a storm of light and steel. The center of it all loomed the monster, the Obliterator. Its black hull glowed with burning scars, yet it refused to fall. Every time its weapon charged, entire sections of the battlefield vanished into silence. On board the Resolute, Captain Rhea gripped the edge of the command table. Her crew shouted over alarms as reports came in: ships lost, fleets broken, lives gone in seconds. The humans had fought against impossible odds before, but never against a weapon that could erase them in a single strike. Still, her voice stayed steady. Hold formation. Keep pressure on the monster. Do not let it aim freely. Human ships darted like wolves, striking the giant and vanishing before its escorts could react. Fighters swarmed its surface, blasting weak points, cutting into its armor like knives. Every hit shook the Empire's beast, but it answered with fire. Tearing through human lines, Admiral Carvos watched from his flagship on the Draven side. His pride should have rejoiced at the destruction, yet Anis gnawed at him. Humans should have broken by now, but they didn't. Even bleeding, even burning, they fought harder. Their will was sharper than steel. For every ship destroyed, another fought twice as fiercely. Inside the Obliterator, its Draven commanders sneered. Their courage will not save them. Fire again, the weapon charged, a sun gathering at its core. Human crews braced for the end. Then light exploded. A section of Rhea's second fleet vanished, swallowed in fire. The void fell silent for a breath. Then the humans roared back, striking with fury. Railguns slammed through escorts. Torpedoes tore the monster's shielding apart. But the giant still stood. Rhea knew this could not go on. If the Obliterator kept firing, humanity would be erased piece by piece. She turned to her officers. We have only one chance. We must strike its core directly. If we fail, we fall. Her crew nodded without hesitation. They had no fear left, only resolve. The plan was madness. Pierce through the monster's escorts, dive close, and hit the reactor at its heart. Few ships would survive such a charge, but it was the only way. Rhea sent the signal, across all fleets. Captains understood. And then the humans moved. They charged. Not with hesitation, not with fear, but with fire. Human cruisers cut through escorts like blades. Fighters flew into the monster's weapon bays, sacrificing themselves to jam its systems. Torpedoes lit up the void, smashing into armor until it cracked like stone under hammer blows. Admiral Carvos watched in awe. They fight as if death itself bends before them, he whispered. For the first time, he wondered if the humans could not be stopped. As the battle burned, the Resolute led the final strike. The ship roared forward, shields breaking, hull burning, but still it pressed on. Alarms screamed. Flames tore through the decks, yet Rhea's eyes stayed fixed on the enemy. Target the core, she commanded. The humans fired everything. Railguns, plasma, torpedoes, every weapon at once. The void blazed with light as the storm slammed into the Obliterator's heart. The monster shuddered. Cracks spread along its hull. Its weapon flickered, failing to charge. For a moment, silence. Then explosions tore through the giant. Its core ruptured, a sun dying in fire. The beast that was meant to erase humanity split apart. Burning, breaking, falling into pieces that scattered like ash across the stars. The Draven fleet froze. Their pride, their ultimate weapon, destroyed before their eyes. For the first time, their voices trembled. The humans. Destroyed it, whispered one officer. The legends are true. Admiral Carvos closed his eyes. He had seen it, he knew. The Empire was not facing ghosts. It was facing something far more dangerous: humans. Who refused to die? On board the Resolute, silence filled the bridge. The crew stared at the burning wreck of the Empire's monster. Many ships were gone. Thousands had fallen. Yet humanity still stood. Rhea looked at the wreckage and spoke softly, her voice carrying to every ship in the fleet. We have shown. The Empire, their greatest weapon, is not enough. But this war is not over. They will come with more fire, more rage. We must be ready. The galaxy listened. On rebel worlds, cheers rose. On enslaved colonies, hope burned brighter. And on the Draven capital, the Emperor's rage turned into something darker than fire fear. The Empire's monster was dead. But the war for the galaxy had only just begun. The galaxy trembled. The Empire's monster, the Obliterator, was gun-burning. Wreckage scattered across the void. News spread faster than light. Across rebel colonies, cheers rose. Across slave worlds, chains felt weaker. For the first time in centuries, hope had a name, humanity. But hope alone did not win wars. The Draven Empire still had fleets beyond counting, armies on 1,000 worlds, and rulers who would never forgive humiliation. And so the greatest storm of war in history began. On board, the resolute Captain Rhea stood before her crew. Ship was scarred, her fleets battered, yet her voice held steel. The Empire will strike back with everything. But we are not alone. The galaxy is watching. Fight not just for Earth, but for all who dream of freedom. Her words carried across the stars. Rebel fleets answered. Colonies that once hid in shadows rose in open defiance, and then, as if the galaxy itself had chosen its side, 10 more human fleets arrived from Earth, the void lit with their arrival. 10 titans of war, built with fire and fury, each carrying the will of billions. Humanity had not sent its last warriors. It had only just begun. Admiral Carvos, standing on the bridge of a Draven command ship, felt his chest tighten. He had warned the Emperor, but pride had deafened the throne. Now he watched as human fleets assembled beside rebels, their banners blazing across the stars. "This is no longer war," he whispered. "This is judgment." The Empire gathered everything. Hundreds of fleets formed, enough firepower to shatter systems. At the heart of it stood the Emperor's flagship, larger than cities, armed with weapons built to end civilizations. His voice thundered across the void, a challenge to every ear. "We are the Empire. We do not fall. Humanity will burn, and, with them, all who dare to rise." Then the last battle began. The void tore open as fleets collided. Human ships and rebel allies fought side by side, striking with precision, weaving through fire like dancers in chaos. The Empire struck back with overwhelming numbers, walls of steel and flame stretching across space. The Resolute dove into the storm, guns blazing, leading the charge. Human cruisers split enemy lines, destroyers cut escorts apart, carriers unleashed wave after wave of fighters. The Empire fired back with fury, shattering ships, burning allies. But the humans never stopped pressing forward. Every rebel world watching the battle saw it. Humanity was the blade cutting through tyranny's armor. For the first time, the Empire's fleets wavered. For the first time, Draven soldiers wondered if they could lose. At the center of the storm, Rhea faced the Emperor's flagship. It was a giant, bristling with weapons, its shields glowing like suns. Every strike bounced away. Every charge it fired ripped through her forces. But she did not retreat. "Target the core," she ordered. The humans charged, every fleet converging. Their weapons lit the void, hammering the Emperor's ship again and again. Shields shattered, armor cracked. The monster bled fire. Inside, the Emperor roared in rage. "We are eternal. We do not bow." But even he felt at the end crawling. Closer with every strike, then came the final blow. The Resolute, burning and broken, pushed into the enemy's shadow. With the last of its power, it fired every weapon, unleashing a storm meant for gods. Other human ships joined, pouring fire into the heart of the flagship. The Emperor's ship cracked, split, and finally exploded in a blaze that outshone the stars. The roar of its death echoed across the galaxy. Silence followed. Then cheers rose. From every rebel world, every human ship, every voice that had suffered under the Empire's chains, the Draven fleets broke. Some fled, some surrendered. The Empire was no more. Rhea stood on the shattered bridge of the Resolute, watching the wreckage drift into the void. Around her, survivors wept, laughed, and whispered the same word, victory. But her eyes stayed hard. "This is not the end," she said quietly. "The galaxy is free tonight, but freedom is not given. It is defended, and humanity will defend it, no matter the cost." Across the stars, new flags rose. Worlds once enslaved declared themselves free. And in every corner of the galaxy, stories spread of the humans who came when all hope was lost, who fought. Monsters and empires who refused to bow even before death itself. One human fleet had shaken the empire. 10 more had ended it. And now humanity's legend had only begun.